In recent years, countries around the world have begun experimenting with e-commerce live streaming, making its global development inevitable. Since 2020, major social and e-commerce platforms in the United States have successively launched live commerce features, with brands increasingly adopting live streaming as a marketing strategy. However, due to differences in history, culture, and foundational industries between China and the United States, the development of live streaming e-commerce in the US has diverged significantly from China's path, leading to the emergence of various innovative operational models not seen in China. Although development in the US has been relatively slow and both positioning and marketing approaches for e-commerce live streaming still require maturation, its latent potential and market prospects are significant. Since its emergence in 2016, e-commerce live streaming in China has shown a rapidly rising trajectory. This real-time interactive experience has bridged and shortened the gap between consumers and products. By 2017, China had established a relatively mature industry chain around e-commerce live streaming. In 2019, the sector entered a mature phase marked by increased platform investment, government policy support, and the rise of top-tier streamers, further boosting the growth of e-commerce live streaming. In 2020, the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic prompted consumers to shift en masse to online shopping. The stay-at-home economy and contactless economy became new and hugely popular economic trends. From 2021 onward, Chinese government departments and provincial authorities began issuing specific regulations governing live streaming e-commerce. After several years of development, China's e-commerce live streaming has established a comprehensive set of solutions in terms of industry layout, operational models, and regulation, consistently demonstrating strong market vitality and becoming a distinctive feature of China's consumer landscape. Let's dive into research done on e-commerce live streaming. First, China's e-commerce live streaming industry. Academic research into China's e-commerce live streaming industry began in 2016 when the industry was just beginning to take shape. The research focused on the influencer economy and proposed that, in the context of live streaming and e-commerce, the incubation of influencers could draw on the celebrity economy and take diverse forms. As China's e-commerce live streaming industry grew, the types and numbers of live streaming platforms increased, and the forms of e-commerce live streaming indeed became more diverse. Scholars then began to explore the prospects for e-commerce live streaming in sectors such as agricultural products, retail, and clothing. Subsequently, the scale of the e-commerce live streaming industry continued to expand, and from 2017 onward, research volumes surged significantly. By 2020, the number of studies on e-commerce live streaming had peaked. Today, research in e-commerce live streaming is largely focused on three areas: the live streaming medium itself, consumer purchasing behavior, and industry regulation. Alongside this, researchers have paid increasing attention to the disorder and issues the sector has brought, especially regarding regulation and governance. Regarding the regulatory research on live streaming e-commerce, Mei Ao and Hou Zhishuai in 2021 noted that China's live streaming e-commerce model is divided into self-operated live streaming and co-hosted live streaming, involving multiple parties such as merchants, consumers, platforms, and hosts. This complexity makes regulation difficult and requires cooperative governance and innovative regulatory mechanisms. Yu Jiujiu in 2021 also pointed out a new phenomenon had emerged in China: public officials participating in live streams to promote goods. While these are often framed as public service efforts, they still fall under the scope of regulatory research. Given the public nature and high visibility of officials, their actions must adhere strictly to laws such as the advertisement law, promoting industry-led and people-led sales. In contrast to views that equate live stream selling with in-store sales assistance, and thus claiming live streams should not be subject to advertising laws, Song Ya-hui in 2020 argued the opposite. Song Ya-hui posited that from the perspective of the purpose and commercial essence of live streaming sales, live stream selling is essentially a form of commercial advertising and thus should be subject to advertising regulations accordingly. Second, what about the US's e-commerce live streaming industry? In the US, e-commerce live streaming is gradually gaining popularity, but its development origins differ from those in China. Whether analyzing American live streaming e-commerce or Chinese e-commerce live streaming, both are still in early stages of exploration. Due to the limited initial size of the Western live streaming e-commerce market, many scholars have focused their research on Chinese live streaming e-commerce. Nonetheless, some US-focused research exists, primarily consisting of exploratory studies learning from China's success and interpretive studies analyzing how live streaming elements influence consumer motivations. As previously stated, Western e-commerce live streaming is currently in the exploratory and developmental stage. Li Jialing in 2021 from Copenhagen Business School notes that different countries have distinct cultural and social contexts, making it challenging to directly apply China's e-commerce live streaming model to other countries. Using Porter's 5 forces as a framework, she found that Denmark lacks several of the enabling factors for e-commerce live streaming as compared to China, though she still recommended live streaming for merchants in sectors like fashion to enhance brand value. Thai scholar Wongkit Gurung, sorry if I butchered the name, in 2020 emphasized the hybrid nature of live stream e-commerce. It combines characteristics of social commerce and streaming while retaining features unique to the live stream industry. Therefore, research must account for these hybrid dynamics. However, in the US, media ecosystems have yet to identify a development path suitable for live stream commerce, and firms need to attempt to adopt integrated marketing strategies to formulate a long-term roadmap. Regarding regulation, due to the nascent nature of the US live streaming e-commerce sector, research into targeted regulatory systems is still limited. However, for reference, studies on regulatory and legal frameworks in adjacent industries can offer insight. First, regulatory considerations for live streaming e-commerce. Mohammed Al-Bakjaji, sorry if I butchered the name again, in 2020 noted that American companies are beginning to adopt a strategy of self-regulation regarding information privacy protection policies and practices. This means that companies can freely implement privacy policies that align with their goals and objectives, with the government only intervening in cases of severe privacy violations. J.E. Boritz in 2011 pointed out that while data collection is essential for service delivery in B2C e-commerce, it introduces significant privacy risk. In such cases, IT technology plays a crucial role in addressing these issues. Second, considerations for the endorsement and recommendation behaviors of influencers. Bez TV proposed that implicit promotions by influencers are difficult to regulate. They argued that a comprehensive set of regulatory measures, rather than fragmented policies, is needed from the government, other regulatory bodies, and enterprises. Thirdly, legal and regulatory research on streaming media and live streaming. LUTY in 2018 compared the regulation of streaming media in the United States and EU countries, noting both substantive and procedural risks. That is to say, while copyright protections are strict, their scope is often overly broad, creating legal uncertainty. Research offering a comparative overview of live streaming development, characteristics, and regulation across the US and other international regions are still limited. Some European and Southeast Asian scholars have reflected on China's success and advocated applying similar models in their own markets, particularly in retail and fashion. This recording aims to go further by systematically summarizing the development process and industry characteristics of e-commerce live streaming in the United States, comparing it with those of China, analyzing the features and distinct traits, and ultimately drawing conclusions and offering recommendations. This recording focuses on the US live streaming e-commerce industry and employs methods including literature review, case analysis, comparative analysis, and field observation. It consists of an introduction and 4 chapters. Introduction. This part outlines the research background, reviews existing studies on China's e-commerce live streaming, and presents the research framework, innovations, and limitations. Chapter 1. This part covers the development of live streaming in the US e-commerce sector. Based on existing literature and data, this recording will categorize the evolution of live streaming in the US e-commerce industry into 3 periods: 1985 to 2009, 2010 to 2019, and 2020 to the present day. These periods correspond respectively to the background, initial emergence, and subsequent development of live streaming in the US e-commerce sector. This video analyzes each period and discusses their impact on the current live streaming model in the US e-commerce industry. Chapter 2. This part explores the characteristics of e-commerce live streaming in the United States. By reviewing the historical developments outlined in Chapter 1 and considering the current status of e-commerce live streaming platforms, case studies, and related industries in the US, this section discusses 3 key aspects: the development of e-commerce live streaming industry, its operational models, and its regulatory frameworks. This chapter serves as a crucial reference for Chinese e-commerce live streaming companies looking to expand internationally. Chapter 3. This part includes the comparative analysis of the e-commerce live streaming industry between China and the United States. This chapter will compare the e-commerce live streaming industry between the 2 countries with empirical examples and cases of the same brand in the 2 countries to analyze why the industry in the United States diverges from its Chinese counterpart and how to come to terms with these differences. Chapter 4. This section discusses suggestions for Chinese e-commerce live streaming companies seeking overseas integration and expansion and serves as a final conclusion of all 4 chapters. This is the end of episode 1, but to learn more about how e-commerce, live streaming, and ultimately e-commerce live streaming developed in the United States, stay tuned for episode 2.